Henry broke down that barrier during the second part of his televised vampire demonstration.
I am going to be ingesting actual human blood.
After introducing Gina, his girlfriend and regular donor, Don used a sterilized needle to draw blood from her arm. He squirted the blood into a chalice and sipped from it, completing an exchange that he says embodies many aspects of Sang energy transfer.
I would say ritualistic in a way that it was actually done, and at the same time it was an explanation or a show of the rudimentary means of being able to transfer energy, and it was used for symbolism, things that we would actually use in ritual. It's not something that I would do normally all the time, although I have used sanguinary feeding to be able to replenish my energy, yes.
The televised ritual unleashed a furor in the vampire community, a backlash that continues to this day. But Don says he's also heard whispers of encouragement.
A lot of people actually supported what I actually did on TV. Reasons being is because it's about time. It's about time that, you know, someone actually shows a real prime example and not just something half-assed.
Don may be a prime example of a vampire today, but his knowledge and secrets owe a debt to the past, including the legends and lore of Transylvania. In the world of vampires, he's the fairest of them all. Author Bram Stoker's creation, Count Dracula. A genuine pop culture icon.
The quintessential vampire is Count Dracula.
Welcome to my home!
Strangely, Dracula's home base of Romania was one of the last places to discover him. But at businesses like Dracula's restaurant in Bucharest, they're catching up for lost time. In the old days, communism wasn't good for the Count. But the fall of the Iron Curtain changed all that. Today, Dracula is big business here. For Romanians, Castle Braun is a medieval fortress rich in history. For Westerners, it's become a stop on a Dracula bus tour. Vendors hawk all manner of Dracula souvenirs. There are even plans to build something called Dracula Park, a kind of Disneyland Goes Goth theme park.
I think that it's better to find exactly what means the legend of Dracula for Romania. And that means money.
But making money off Bram Stoker's fictional character is a complicated business here, because Romania has another famous Dracula, a 15th century Romanian prince called Vlad Dracula, every bit as bloodthirsty as the vampire Count.
They've become intertwined and almost inseparable, so that now when you hear about Vlad Dracula, you assume that he's a vampire.
One Dracula is real, the other isn't. But mysterious bonds between the two have created one legend and left many wondering where myth ends and reality begins. Since its publication in 1897, Bram Stoker's Dracula has been translated into dozens of languages and turned into hundreds of movies. Today, when it comes to vampires, Dracula is the definitive source.
The vampires in folklore go back hundreds of years before Dracula. But it was Dracula that crystallized the concept of the vampire. And it was Dracula that ever since has sort of set the course. Dracula and vampires are synonymous.
From the look to the lifestyle, many modern-day vampires agree that Stoker's Dracula is never far away.
He got things right. He got the lifestyle right. He got his imagination right.
Stoker's influence is more than 100 years old and still going strong. Just look at the annual Dracula's Ball, and you can see how the community has welcomed the Count here in America. But this is the place Dracula calls home, Transylvania. It means the land beyond the forest, and it really does exist. it's not just a figment of Bram Stoker's imagination.
It's ironic that Stoker, in trying to impart geographical reality, succeeded only in making Transylvania seem like a completely fantastic place. I'm sure there are many people who would be surprised to learn that Transylvania exists, you know, somewhere outside of Hollywood.
It's hard to imagine a better landscape than this for a vampire story. At once picturesque and foreboding, a mysterious place rich in vampire lore and unknown to the outside world, including Stoker himself, an Irishman who never set foot in the land he so vividly described.
He never visited this place. He never went to Transylvania. Everything he knew about Transylvania came from his reading.
Transylvania, Dracula, inspired names that roll off the tongue. But when he first started putting pen to paper, Stoker's count was an Austrian named Vampire.
Had he used his original name for the character, Count Vampire, we wouldn't have such a memorable book. There's something almost musical, those three sinister syllables that crack and undulate on the tongue, almost hypnotic.
Stoker's personal Dracula papers are here at Philadelphia's Rosenbach Museum and Library.
These are the Rosenbach's Dracula notes.
It's a collection of clippings, scribbles, and research on all things vampire. A roadmap to the place where Stoker's vampire and the real-life Dracula first met.
Stoker discovered the name Dracula while poring through a history book in the public library at Whitby in North Yorkshire, where he spent his summer vacations, and copied out a passage that described the Dracula family and the fact that the word Dracula meant devil.
It was the discovery of a lifetime. Stoker crossed off Vampire from his list of characters, replaced it with the name Dracula, and a legend was born.
At the top of that page, he also has written in the top left and top right-hand corners Dracula, Dracula, and then even in the middle Dracula, as if having come across this name, it seems to have a sort of magic to it.
The idea that Stoker based his blood-sucking count on a real-life prince was first suggested by two scholars in the 1970s. It has tantalized vampire buffs and unnerved Romanians ever since.
We made that connection, and we made it based on the fact we found Stoker's original notes. It was a shock to the Romanians. They didn't know what to do with it.
Shocking because the real-life Dracula was not some remote figure from history, but a Romanian hero, the George Washington of his country.
There's a general resentment that Bram Stoker deliberately took their historical figure, this national hero, and turned him into a vampire. They're distressed by the fact, and you'll get comments such as, well,